The remaining gunships tried to escape, lifting up and away, but the Shriek ships did not fly like the fighters on old Earth. No pass and looping turn to come around again. They maneuvered like wasps, thrusters firing to keep the cannons trained on the gunships as they hung motionless, then danced upward and forward. Plasma bursts against unshielded alloy, slagged rotors and melted pilots. The otherworldly crack of a jump crashed into my eardrums like my hearing protection was non-existent. The shockwave slammed into my back and shoulders, crumpling me to the ground, bouncing my helmet off the lavender stone. The sucker punch drove the atmo from my lungs and blacked out my vision. I willed my limbs to obey, my diaphragm to force oxygen into my lungs. "No, no, no!" wailed one of the Marines. I flopped over, followed the pointing finger upward. A destroyer was plummeting toward the surface, ruptured fuel cells and burning drive engines marring the sky with cerulean gouts of flame. Jumped away from battle in panic and materialized within Atmo. A chunk of durasteel the size of the sniper's nest I was in had been bitten out of the nose of the warship by a torpedo. Gladiator class. I wondered if it would impact close enough to kill me. I wondered if the jump drives were charged. Mobile CIWs entrenched on the hills surrounding the city spat a stream of red tracers toward a harpy. It dropped under the deadly ribbon, accelerating backwards on thrusters designed for the three-dimensional combat of the void. It darted lower and sideways, grouping up again with the rest of the formation, cannons firing to concentrate fire on a grounded troop transport. The bloom of a plasma hit is captivating, like watching a blossoming flower. The fireball that engulfed the transport and the soldiers inside was far less beautiful. "Sir! Look at this!" the sniper yelled over the chaos. "Freight launcher opening. Get on the comms. Enemy attempting launch. Request artillery." The major's eyes darted erratically, continuing almost to himself. "No time to look now." I regained my feet and cast my gaze upward just in time to watch the plasma cannon impacts spread like molten steel over the ventral hull of the wounded flailing destroyer. The fuel cell infrastructure of the starboard drive engine reached its critical point, and the resulting explosion sent the destroyer careening sideways on the artificial thrust. The radio man was howling into his equipment, listing bearing and coordinates, calling for artillery on a Shriek hard target. I had time enough just to wonder why I hadn't heard anything about danger close when the torpedoes struck, like vipers on their tails of exhaust. The destroyer disappeared into a vapor of slag durasteel and liquefied ceramics. Soldiers and Marines dove for cover. I couldn't hear. Choking dust. High-pitched whine of hearing damage fading into focus. Heat and light. Migraine pounding through my skull. Someone was screaming, cursing. I could see the sniper, mouth wide, gesturing wildly toward the freight launcher. I wanted to tell him whatever it was wouldn't matter after the artillery hit it. My brother stood, clumsily in the bulky mech, face streaked with someone else's blood. He stopped, still hunched over, frozen. He had time only for... oh my... Some bizarre glow flared across his face, a fraction of an instant of illumination. I spun. I saw the plasma burst. I saw the dome shields ripple blue-white into the visible spectrum. I watched the blasts leach them dry in a fraction of a blink. I watched the barrage impact the surface of the world, blooming across the ground, expanding on impact, consuming all within the blast radius. I watched the concentrated energy incinerate organic and inorganic alike. An entire Terran offensive wiped off the world with a single volley of orbital bombardment. Half a supercity devoured in dissipating malachite flares. My brother's face was mummified with horror. I raised my own upward, waiting to be vaporized, consumed, expendable flesh fed to the maw of the Terran war machine. The smoke screen of jumps finally waved away to reveal Terra, outclassed on a galactic scale. A syllable cut through the pandemonium. A single sound. Distinct like it, a desperate cry directly into my skull. The sniper screaming over the Discord. "Child! There's a kid! A human child?" My brother unfroze, an expression I had never before seen on his face. His lips moved soundlessly. Then he lunged forward, clawing his way upward to where the sniper team still lay. I beat him there, barely, unhampered by a mech suit. I strained to see through the smog and flames and acrid smoke, eyes stinging and blurring from the heat and strain. There was movement. Shrike warriors. Not a tactical formation, a security detail. 10 or 12. Shriek warriors with their combat experience written on their armored scales in old scars. Protecting something in their midst. Something I couldn't make out through the haze of the burning city and last rays of the setting sun like sprays of molten durasteel across the burning sky. I willed the warriors to part, willed my eyes to sharpen, the war to calm, the enemy to grant me just a moment to see what might be a miracle, what was stolen from my species, what could not be but might be. I tried to will the impossible into reality. It was another shriek bull, one that towered a full head over the 2.5-meter warriors. A soldier? General? A priest. Could tell by the decorated horns etched with platinum and gold, by the bloody-colored toga across his massive chest, by the jeweled scepter clutched in a clawed hand, by the Praetorian that surrounded him with plasma rifle and personnel shield, by the Terran child leashed by a collar around its throat, by the human child, by the child. The glitter of energy cannons hung motionless in the sky, opposing fleets inert on the edge of the void. The Harpy squadron waited above the remnants of our besieging force. The fires burned slow and sullen within the slagged city. Because of the child. A child. Lieutenant Briggs broke the stillness with a shout. "Call off the strike! There's a—" And his head disintegrated to a plasma bolt. A hummingbird rose above the shriek, drawn by the EM radiation of the comms. The sleek, dagger-like drone sent another bolt toward the sniper's nest, hitting a block of purple stone with a bloom of green flame that rippled outward like water, exploratorily, almost lazily. Then it flitted sideways and darted upward another meter to hover, sensors probing toward us like searching eyes. Another instant and it blinked diagonally downwards, pausing again for an irregular moment, almost erratically like the old Earthbird we named it after. The priest and his guard and the child were making for the freight launcher. They were going to get off-world, to link with the Shriek fleets, because the masquerade of jumps was finished, and the Shrike had retaken the void space. We were screaming. My brother and I and the sniper called Kelly. I don't even know if I was forming words. Just screaming into the burnt sky and slagged city and ash that remained from the machinations of the Terran war machine and an elite combat species. And suddenly my brother had stopped. He was looking at the Major with an expression perfectly blank, because the Major wasn't ordering a halt to the artillery strike. He could see. We knew it. He knew it. But he could see the drone and knew another comm would confirm our position. My brother was frozen again, staring at Major Cannizzaro. "Coward," he stated simply. The single word punched harder than any expletive. The drone saw movement or a thermal signature or any other discrepancy that alerted its programming to defend the ones who had constructed it. It saw something Terran and I saw a blink. The blink meant it was firing at us. 900 shots per minute. A streamer of malachite green that raked across our position, sending lilac splinters outward on destabilizing energy bolts like fragmentation grenades. A short burst because it wasn't yet confident it had the range. It darted sideways to stay above the priest and his guard, to stay above the child, then climbed a dozen meters, twitched its guns a few degrees and fired again. 2 of the bolts hit the radio man behind me, upper chest and thigh. He went down slowly, like he was suspended in jelly. His uniform and equipment fused to his torso from the superheated projectiles. The rest destabilized behind our cover to detonate like a flak burst, killing with stone fragment and concussive blast alike. It had the range. "Keep up!" My brother caught my gaze with his burning eyes. "Keep up," he said again, so quietly I understood just from his lips. Then he dumped his stims and whirled away from me. I was right behind him. Liquid fire flooded through my bloodstream. The ache of long campaign and ice pick of the migraine dissolved into euphoria. Unconscious focus, controlled autopilot, overclocked like a jump drive supercomputer. Because Terran are unique, special, enhanced, augmented speed and strength because we get there first. Because only we had a chance. Because it's gotta be someone, so it's gotta be us. My brother ripped a lilac marbled white concrete slab from the surface. I heard the servo mechanisms whine and strain as the alloys took the weight. Exoskeleton built to handle torpedo magazine restocking, this well within spec. The bulky clawed feet of the mech powered up and over the rim of the nest, cracking the stone under his crashing steps. A clumsy machine proficient and nimble under my brother's piloting. The spotter was dead. The sniper was not. "Good hunting!" Corporal Kelly roared to us as we passed him. I heard the report of his rifle, saw the bullet glance off the angled drone, hitting high and right to jolt it awkwardly before the thrusters stabilized, causing the first slew of plasma fire to disappear into the sky. toward the edge of the void where behemoths of Durasteel and Synthoglis wrestled for control of the void space. The Shriek were making for the hole in the surface that led to the base of the freight launcher. The priest turned toward us, yanking the leash toward himself, sending the child scrambling to keep its footing. The drone had alerted him. It was spitting staccato bursts toward my brother and I, unerringly striking the center mass of what its programming identified as a threat. Ripples of malachite flame across the stone slab my brother held in front of him. I felt the heat on my face as shreds of fire spilled over the edge of the shield. No pain, the combat stims wouldn't allow that. Just information to be cataloged and parsed. Heat is danger. Readjust position right to avoid ocular damage. We were sprinting now, 4 strides like battleship drive engines, accelerating us to the speed of an Olympian as we came down the grade. Corporal Kelly fired again. I heard the snap of the bullet pass overhead. Miss, but the drone's computer reassessed threat levels, and it rose into the air, searching for the marksman. We had covered a quarter of that great distance, a feat impossible for any human throughout history. Terrain. Distance to cover. Distance to enemy. Targets. Location lead time drop. My muscles ready to snap my rifle to my shoulder and fire. Probability of hit. Probability of collateral damage. Relative threat levels. Sightlines. A nudge in my subconscious that made me notice the harpies flashing across the ruins toward our position. An itch inside the targeting computer that was my brain as half the security detail peeled off and fanned out. A firing line against us as we charged. CQB against an elite combat species. One of them fired. I couldn't see the bolt. Too fast. But I could see the angles of Shriek anatomy and pulse rifle barrel. Measure it against our speed and position across treacherous terrain. Compare it to the stone shield my brother carried before him. Twitch aside and let the bolt destabilize behind me harmlessly. Memories fragmented, corrupted like a damaged data drive. Superfluous, like anger and fear and pain. Obstacles to be stripped away by the chemicals in my veins. Combat stimulants to mutate this flesh into machine. A biological computer. A wetware weapon, an enhanced marine. We had covered a third of the distance. Relative threat levels. Highest the firing line against us, arrayed behind cover to protect their priest. Second the drone, sensors scrutinizing the rubble for Corporal Kelly, would find him on the next shot. Third the harpies approaching to mop up this pocket of stragglers from the annihilated Terran offensive. A switch flipped inside me. Combat stimulants evoking the training. Probability of collateral damage acceptable. Wouldn't hit the child. My rifle snapped up, positioned instinctually by the training and the drugs, firing at a dead run with an intuitive gyroscope. Shot. High left. Calibration shot. Readjust. Shot. Hit. 6.8 by 51 millimeter round. Pink missed. Shot. Hit. Shot. Impact low. Puff of dust against the rubble. Can't hit them all. One, maybe two too many. My brother couldn't drop the slab. Dodge sideways. Bolt flashed beside me. Shot. Hit! Not enough time. Have to take a hit. Which one for least damage? Harpies closing. Seconds away. My brother grunted, straining to coax more speed from the mech. More of the security detail peeling off. The remaining clustering tighter around the priest. Almost dragging the child by the throat. Get there first. Protect the... Hit. Heat. Light. Malachite bloom against my side. No pain, superfluous. Just a damage report. Armor slagged. Can't take another. Skin sloughed off. Muscles and tendons functional. Internal organs superfluous. Heart and lungs functional, that's all. Both augmented like rocket fuel. Shot. Not mine. Sniper. 50 BMG anti-material rifle. Punched through the cover, the Shriek Praetorian behind it, and 2 layers of lavender stone behind that. I liked snipers. Range was my ally. Plasma impacts. Kinetics penetrate. Time now. Enough time! Didn't have to take another. Shot. Hit. Shot. Hit. Shot. Shot. From the drone. A spray of plasma. Time enough, me and my brother. Bought at the price of Corporal Kelly's life. Get there first. Protect the... Time enough maybe for the child. Bought at the price of a single life. We get there first. We protect the child. The purpose of an enhanced marine. To get there first because the others don't have a chance. Then I heard it cut through the liquid fire of the stim dumps because the training told me it was important. Boom. A distant, faded detonation like huddling behind a bunker as an EOD tech disposes of captured ordnance with a block of C4. Stutter. Get there first. Half the distance. No range to dodge another bolt. No more allies in this fight save my brother. Keep up. We'll make this. Because the next part will happen fast. So fast most think it's one sound. More than half the distance. Combat stimulants like liquid fire through our veins. Hard, fast biology on a high-oxy world. A wetware weapon. Enhanced marine. Get there first to protect the child. No one to call off the artillery strike against a shriek-hard target. The reason they fought to hold this city. The reason they were dancing with our destroyers up top. Get there first. Sensor packages reaching through the higher planes. Stepping down, putting a single toe over the line into the reel. Get there first. Gnawing through equations of relative velocity, lead time and drop. Spitting out targeting solutions to the railgunners, plugged into the computers through 90 million worth of Neuralink input and output cyberware. We get there first. Seeing what the computers see so Terran gray matter can be used to calculate firing solutions in the real, while still within the unreal. Get there first! Step. Depleted uranium slugs on the business end of a physics equation that sums to an effect on target measured in grid squares. Silence. We weren't there. The complete absence of sound for the smallest fraction of an instant. The mech and the stone slab and the enhanced marine that took the hammer blow of the mass driver strike for me. Drop. The crack of atmospheric displacement was otherworldly, driven into my body like I'd taken the brunt of a torpedo strike. The sky blackened by 55 million kilograms of Durasteel armor. The pinnacle of the Terran war machine fulfilling the request for an artillery strike on a crucial shriek-hard target. We weren't there. Nothing was there. Nothing. Stim dumps like glacial ice through my veins. Prioritize. Mission? Directives? Protect the child? Brother was superfluous. Combat jumps above me on the edge of the void, leeching away the last bloody rays of the setting sun. Unconscious focus. Controlled autopilot. Protect the child. Ignore the destroyer in the sky above me that cleared the void space of enemy with CIWs and railgun. Ignore the heat. Ignore the corpses and flames. Ignore the rubble and combat jumps reinforcing the Terran fleet above me, and troop carriers dropping from hyperspace to re-establish the ground assault. Lives beyond reckoning, fed to the gnashing teeth of the Terran war machine. Memories fractured, missing, jumping like a destroyer except through time, forward and back. Superfluous to my training and the combat stims. I was a biological machine, a wetware weapon, an enhanced marine. The desire to survive is hardwired into all life. The training and stim dumps had reprogrammed me to get there, to protect the child. So I began to search, with rifle and grenade, with fist and breaching charge. The pinnacle of the Terran war machine, manufactured for CQC with an elite combat species, stalking them in the dark down the shaft next to the molten rubble that had once been a freight launcher. Pit by pit down the abyss, CQC against the design of a death world's evolution. Outstripping the non-enhanced because my job was to avenge the child, until I discovered to what purpose they had fought to hold this city. With stim dumps like liquid nitrogen through my bloodstream. Until it was done, silence aside from gasping breath, and I could let the combat stims filter from my systems. There was a shrike there, countless kilometers under the city, in the lightless murk and the hum of HVAC systems and redundant generators, burrowed into the crust of the world, into the tunnels and warrens and subterranean bunkers the engineers had constructed for just such an eventuality. He was ancient beyond understanding and massive from long life, scaled hide armored like the bedrock he hid within and etched with the scars of his accomplishments. Massive once proud horns, broken lifetimes ago in some long-forgotten battle, slipped from the memory of his kind, content to lurk beneath the life of the surface in the endless night. His eyes, when I stood in front of him, finally were bleached white, unbothered by the darkness because darkness and light alike had no meaning for him. I swayed before the blind Shrike Elder, the dregs of the combat stimulants flowing slowly through my lacerated circulatory system. The point of exhaustion had passed long ago. My flesh obeyed my will now, not my muscles and nerves. I had seen the dungeon behind him, the laboratory, the research farm. I had found the Terran children. Younger than 4, so epigenetics had the greatest potential and the brain was at its highest plasticity. My empty rifle clattered to the deck. Metal on stone. I had seen the brains with faces. The network of biological nervous tissue fed by nutrient drip and oxygenated by synthetic organs. I had seen the wetware processors. I lit a cigarette with numb fingers and graceless movements, because the pain was creeping slowly in from my extremities. What is this place? The Shrike did not reply until the glow of my cigarette was almost extinguished. His voice through the colossal chest and vocal cords rumbled like an earthquake, echoing through the gloom. Your kind has learned to jump. I staggered. My tattoo burned on my arm at his words. A white-hot knife sliced into my shoulder. Imagination. We sought to learn to fly. Then he was still. I breathed in the darkness. I lit my last cigarette, dragged in a lungful of carcinogens and nicotine. The agony consumed my soft, slow biology, pulped internal organs and smashed limbs, microfractured bones and overstrained tendons. I exhaled, let the smoke drift from between my teeth. When I spoke, my voice grated like granite on Durasteel. Have you ever heard a jump? I inhaled again, the glow of the smolder briefly lighting the face of the blind Eldar. A jump is violent, like standing under the strike of a thunderbolt. It isn't natural. Another drag into my dying lungs. You stole our children, burned our world so the next childhood won't be for another 100 years, fated us to lifetimes of war. We'll never see the blue sky. But we've seen the evidence. There's other life out there. Maybe it's a handful of species. Maybe it's thousands. It doesn't matter, because ours are the children you stole. And it's our species that will ensure no children are stolen again. Because it's gotta be someone to put an end to this. And if it's gotta be someone, it's gotta be us. I murmured, almost to myself. It's gotta be someone, so it's gotta be me. Another pause. Another drag. Have you ever heard a jump? That otherworldly crack is the sound of a waking nightmare, a sleeping giant disturbed in the darkness. Your species will learn to fear the sound of a jump, because it will mean death. You will not be defeated, not driven back. You will be only a memory. Wherever you flee within the void, you will be hunted. Out of every jump will come me and those like me. The stars will tremble when they hear of our vengeance. They too will learn to fear a jump. They will shudder before us as the monsters from beyond the black. I leaned forward, every cell of my body screaming to be allowed to die, to pass into rest. But the desire to survive is hardwired, so I inhaled the last of the drugs into my lungs and growled out the words alongside the caustic smoke. It's time for you to hear your jump.